All right, guys, if you're watching this video, that means you have become an expert on using the standard algorithm for 2x2 multiplication problems. And it's now time naturally to bump up to 3x2 multiplication problems. I will tell you, the bigger the problem gets, the better your chances are of making a big Bob mistake. And so as the problem gets bigger, I would say anytime you're in the two-digit multiplication problems, 2x2, 3x2, I really suggest that you guys start by estimating because it doesn't take very long. I'll just do it while I'm talking here. And by quickly rounding each factor, you can find out pretty quickly and pretty easily using rounding and box and dot. That's 45 with 3 zeros. You can find out pretty quickly about what the answer should be. That way, as you're working, you kind of know where you're heading. It's kind of like knowing where the finish line is when you're running a race. If you don't, you could find yourself kind of running all over the place. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of walk through this problem with you. And we know that the answer should be about 45,000. So we have 451 times 93. And I'm going to make sure I'm writing this nice and big and spaced out. And as we talked about, guys, there's really two problems built into one. We have 451 times 3. And that's going to be one problem. And our answer to that of 451 times 3, that's going to be here. And then I'll make that go away. Go away. And then the second problem that's kind of built into this is 451 times the 9. But we have to remember that 451 times 9 is not really the problem. It's really 451 times 90. And the answer to that is going to go underneath. And our final step, guys, is going to be pretty simple. We're simply going to take those two parts, those two pieces, and we're going to add them together. And we'll get our final answer. So again, I highly recommend that you do the math facts ahead of time. So we know we're going to need our 3's facts over here. We're going to need to know 3 times 1, 3 times 5, and 3 times 4. And I think that that is so very important, especially when you get into these bigger problems. It is so many steps to solve one problem that it really does save you time. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to use those facts here, and I'm going to do 451 times 3. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 5 is 15. Carry the 1. And 3 times 4 is 12. Plus 1 is 13. And as we talked about, please save your commas for your final answer. If you add the commas now, you are going to find that you might mistake them for a 1 when you're doing your final addition step. The next step is probably the most missed step, and it's really the easiest one. It's called your X's and O's. And the X's are going to come above the equal sign, and the O's are going to come below the equal sign. So let me show you what I mean by X's and O's again. Whoops. Oh my, Mrs. Phillips. I don't know what you just did. That's pretty terrible. We're going to get rid of our X's and O's here so that I can show you without having such a mess. The X is meant to get rid of anything we're done with in the problem. So we're done with the 3. We've already done 451 times 3, and we're done with the 1. The O comes in right here, and you're annexing a 0. And the reason we're doing that is the next step is going to look like 451 times 9, but we know that that 9 really stands for 90. And so to account for that 0, we're going to go ahead and put the 0 in ahead of time so that I don't have to worry about it. Now I need to know my 9's facts. I need to know 3 9's facts in order to solve this one. I'm going to need to know 9 times 1, 9 times 5, and 9 times 4. I'm going to do those really quickly here. And once I have those done, that's really all I need to know. 9 times 1 is 9. 9 times 5 is 45. So I'm going to put the 5 in my next place value spot and bring the 4 up here. And 9 times 4 is 36 plus 4 more is 40. And now that I have everything all lined up, I know what 451 times 3 is. It's 1,353. I know what 451 times 90 is. It's 40,590. I simply need to put those pieces together. 3 plus 0 is 3. 5 plus 9 is 14. Carry the 1. Don't lose that. 1 plus 3 is 4. Plus 5 more is 9. 1 plus 0 is 1, and 4 is all by itself there. When I throw my comma in, guys, I can see I did not make any big Bob mistakes. 41,943 is not terribly far from 45,000. Now you can see the bigger the problem, the more work it's going to be. I cannot stress to you enough just how important it is to do these facts ahead of time. All right, I'm going to go ahead and show you one more. I'm going to do this one a little bit more quickly and a quick rounding here so that I can get a good estimate. So that's about 300. That's about 60. And 3 times 6 is 18 with 3 zeros. So I know my answer is going to be about 18,000. So I have 284 times 59. I'm going to have two different problems set up here. The first problem is going to be 284 times 9, and that's going to give me my answer here, or the part of my answer there. I'm also going to do 284 times 50, not 5, but 50, and that's going to go here, and then I'll add the two pieces together. So I have 3 nines facts that I need to know. I need to know 9 times 4, 9 times 8, and 9 times 2. I'm going to go ahead and fill those in really quickly. While I'm doing my facts, I also know when I get to my 5, I'm going to need to know 3 fives facts in order to solve this. First 5 times 4, then 5 times 8, then 5 times 2. Fill those in. And now I have everything that I need to know. So I'm going to go ahead and start with my ones digit. I'm going to start with the 9. And I'm going to pretend I'm just looking at 284 times 9. That's what I'm doing. 9 times 4 is 36. Carry the 3 to the tens place. 9 times 8 is 72. Plus 3 more is 75. Carry that 7 to the hundreds place. 9 times 2 is 18. Plus 7 more is 25. So I know I'm going to leave my comma out for now. I know that. Try to get rid of that. I don't know how to. Okay, there we go. 284 times 9 is simply 2,556, leaving my comma out. I'm now going to grab a blue so I can do my X's and O's. Before I can move to the tens place, I'm going to get rid of anything that the ones place used up and made. And I'm going to put a 0 into the ones place because we now need to give power to this tens place here. And we're going to be able to look at 284 times 5, which we really know is 50. That's what that 0 goes for, is the fact that it looks like a 5, but it's really a 50. So I'm going to do 5 times 4 is 20. Carry the 2 directly next door. A lot of times we tend to throw the 2 too far. We want to go directly next door to the tens place. 5 times 8 is 40. Plus 2 more is 42. Carry the 4. You can see why we need to X things out. It could be very confusing if we don't. And finally, 5 times 2 is 10. Plus 4 more is 14. And the last and final thing, guys, is I know what 284 times 9 is, and I know what 284 times 50 is, but now I need to put them together because it's 59 that we're concerned about. And when I add, when we're adding, not multiplying, at this last step, I can see that my answer makes sense. No big Bob mistakes here. All right. We're going to look at one more, and I do want to show you that the biggest mistake that kids tend to make is we ghost a digit when we move to 3 digits. So quick estimation, that's about 100. That's about 40. I know 1 times 4 is 4 with 3 zeros. My answer is going to be about 4,000. Now we tend to ghost when we move to these digits, and we always tend to ghost the tens place of our 3-digit number. And I'll show you what I mean by that. I'm going to have my first problem is the 8. So we're going to need 8 times 9, 8 times 0, and 8 times 1. None of those are terribly difficult. That's 72, 0, and 8. And that part of my answer is going to go right here. And then I am going to do a second part of my answer with the 3. And I'm going to need to know 3 times 9, 3 times 0, and 3 times 1. None of those are terribly hard, especially with my 9s trick. And that's going to give me this part of my answer. And then, of course, we'll add them together. So let's go ahead and grab my purple pen. 8 times 9 is 72. Here's what I mean by ghosting. Sometimes what happens is, let me put that back down, that kids will take, like I just got 8 times 9 is 72. They'll put the 2 down in the right spot and they'll bring the 7 all the way to the hundreds place. So we went all the way from ones to hundreds, and we totally ghost and skip the tens place. We have to remember that if the fact was with the ones digit, then we'd shift it right over to the tens. So we can't ever skip. So 8 times 9 is 72. So the 7's going to go here. Because the next fact we're going to have to do is 8 times 0 is 0, plus 7 is 7. And now we're going to do 8 times 1 is 8. So 109 times 8 is 872. We're now going to do our X's and O's. I'm going to get rid of the 8 because we're finished with it. And the 8 created this plus 7. So that's the X's. And the O's is we know that this 3 is really worth 30. But it doesn't look like a 30. It just looks like a 3. So I'm going to go ahead and annex in that 0 there. Now I'm ready for the tens place. And I'm going to start with 3 times 9. I know is 27. Actually, this is probably the most common ghost. We'll see them put a 7 here for 27. And because the next opening is in the hundreds, they'll throw the 2 all the way to the hundreds place. But the 3 times 9, this 9 was in the ones place. So that 2 from 27 has to get carried directly next door. And so now I'm going to do 3 times 0 is 0, plus 2 more is 2. And finally, 3 times 1 is 3. And now it's time for me to simply, no, that's not a pen I want to use, add our 2 parts, our 2 partial products together. 7 plus 7 is 14. I know 8 plus 2 is 10, plus 1 is 11. And I know 1 plus 3 is 4. And I get a final product of something that makes perfect sense with my estimate. So, boys and girls, I cannot stress to you enough, the bigger the problem, the more likely we are to make mistakes. So really estimate to check. Go ahead and give some a try. Clearly, I was watching my son's soccer game. Can't you tell?